It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name's Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
And joining us for this very special episode is our good friends Colleen and Eddie Medina.
Yay!
Yay.
Hi. Yay. So how are you guys doing?
Well, we're excited to be back. It's been a while. I guess the last time we were on here was for y'all's Jaws episode. I guess it took a while for y'all, for your audience to recover from our nonsense.
Are you kidding? They get a weekly-ish dose of our nonsense all the time. You'd think they'd be used to it by now.
Before we get into things, I do want to apologize for no episode last week.
We had issues.
We had issues. As if some of y'all are long-time listeners, y'all know that we are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we had some weather issues last week, and some of us didn't have power or internet for a few days, so recording was not a possibility. But we're back now, and hopefully everything stays on. So, and everybody's okay. I mean, with everything that happened, I hadn't heard any kind of injuries, so that's a good thing. Just a lot of property damage. So
yeah,
a lot.
So that's yeah, a lot.
A lot.
Don't anybody mention trees to Liz.
Or
I just have to look out my window right now until they pick those up, you know.
Yeah, don't do that.
And it started raining again. It was like, how bad would that suck for all of these to become projectiles? That's where my anxiety brain's been.
The other day, I was out doing errands, and yeah, I saw not only a lot of trees, but a lot of fences and all that. And I've told you guys this. Over on, this is not going to be a street anybody's going to know, so that's okay. Plano Road. You know, there's those series of houses, but they've got the brick wall that kind of separates the houses from the street, and there's an alley and all that. Well, I drove by that, and apparently someone's trampoline was picked up by the wind. And the only reason why it was not on Plano Road is it got caught up in two trees. So, and we're talking about one of these big ones where you can have like three or four people bouncing on it. It was a big tree. It was a big trampoline. I was like, am I actually seeing this?
I don't mean to laugh at someone else's misfortune, but I immediately started thinking about that scene in Twister where the cow goes by, they're like, cow, yep, and you're cow. Like, trampoline.
Yep.
Yeah, thank goodness we were very fortunate. We got heavy winds and rain, but we did not have any damage. And I mean, there were a few branches around, but like tiny ones. And the worst that I saw in our neighborhood was a dead tree across the street. A big branch or a big limb had come down, and they got the whole tree down. And then there was another tree, a live tree, that a big limb had come down. But thank goodness that was all. We are really blessed over here.
Yeah.
She's trying to rub it in, Liz.
Yeah, I'm rubbing it in. Yeah. That was the whole point of that, was to rub it in. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. One of my neighbors, one of their big trees got uprooted and blocked the street for a better part of the day.
Oh,
Man.
I mean, it was late. I mean, we're talking about 9 o'clock when they finally got everything cleared off. And, you know, I live nearby a school. So, I mean, of course there was no school because there was no power.
Yeah.
But, you know.
We ended the year early, didn't we? Or Garland did?
I think they came back for Wednesday, and then Thursday was supposed to be a half day. So I don't know if they did or not. Depends on when they got power up.
I think after the storms, because it happened at 6 in the morning, so some kids were already on buses. So
there were some already at school when they decided, hey, you know what, we're going to close it out.
Yeah, we're not going to make anyone else come in. And then I don't think they went back after that. I know at 6 o'clock when I finally opened my door, like I said, it sounded like someone was chunking boulders at my house. So, of course, I go and look outside, and the sky was like green. I mean, just flashing everything. There was like pinks and purples, but the main part of the sky looked like swamp water. It was bad. And the trees, of course, were just every which way. And I know as much as I'm griping about my trees, I think actually that's what saves my yard from a lot of damage. Not by them, but it's like it disrupts the wind. What is that, velocity or, you know, the airflow or something, because although we had trees snap in half, I have like chairs up against the shed and, you know, Leanne's trampoline. And, things were fine, but those trees were like, nope. We ain't going through another Texas summer.
They serve as a windbreak, but
we're going to leave.
It was borderline as to what was breaking what at that point.
Right.
The
My
sky
sister
looked crazy.
Yeah. My sister told me, going back to the whole thing with the school, is that she got an email about 8 o'clock in the morning. My sister used to teach for the school district, and before she retired, and they sent an email like at 8 o'clock saying, "Well, we're closing down the schools because of no power." And they're like, 8 o'clock. You know, high school and elementary had already gone to class. But now they make the decision to, no, we're not gonna have school that day.
Yeah.
And
we were already out of school. We always get out the Friday before Memorial Day, thank goodness. And we had a Tuesday morning. We were gonna have our end of the year luncheon, and before that, we were gonna do what we needed to check out. And we had one of the ladies that we work with. We had her dog, and so we were bringing him back. And
if she doesn't pay the ransom soon, really bad things are going to happen.
So we were on our way. Well, we had already said, earlier that morning, we had already gotten in the hallway twice due to the sirens. And so we kind of, after it died down, we said that we were going to get there a little bit later. And we were on our way. Thank goodness we hadn't gotten down the highway very far before we got a text from the school. They send out a parent alert to everybody, and it just said the school has no power. So school, even though we didn't have school anymore, school has no power. Nobody could work, and so the luncheon will be canceled. And so I called our friend, and it said also that it's not safe to drive. So I called her, and I said, we're turning around. We're just going to keep them another night, and because it's just not safe to travel that far. Yeah. And then they got power back at the school, I think, the next morning. So that, I mean, whenever, you know, we saw some flooding areas, and we saw a down power line, but whenever we went back to school the next day, I mean, it was like a war zone. It reminded me of that tornado that came through a few years ago through that same area, and it uprooted these large trees. I mean, there was stuff everywhere.
Walls knocked down.
Yeah, brick walls knocked down, and so it was something else.
So that is the reason why we didn't have an episode last week, but we're back this week, and we are starting up Classic TV Month. Da-da-da. Something we started up here about a year or so ago. And you have Colleen and Eddie joining us this week because we're doing one of their favorite shows. And it's called Murder, She Wrote. Yeah. Oh, God.
Not Seinfeld.
Not Paul.
Newman!
No, one of us does not watch Seinfeld. You can guess who it is.
Les.
Well, yeah, Les. We are doing Murder, She Wrote, starring Angela Lansbury. The series started up in, 1984? Ran for 12 seasons. So let's talk a little Murder, She Wrote. Colleen, would you like to start us off?
Sure. What do you want me to say exactly?
Whatever you like to say. How did you get into the series?
I
Did you watch it from
remember.
the get-go, or?
So when the show first started in '84, I was 11-ish, and I remember this was one of my mom's favorite shows, and I think it came on Sundays at that time, but I think it kind of changed days here and there, so I'm not sure. But I remember her, having it going and fixing dinner, and I can't tell you any of the episodes from then. I don't remember any of them. I just remember the music. I remember it was just that show that my mom would watch. And so after I got older, I didn't really think about it, but she just continued watching it, and it was kind of like one of those, like Columbo, or one of her other favorites was Perry Mason. And so I just started watching it. It would come on TV, and Eddie would record it for me. And my favorite shows are the ones, huh?
I said good man.
Oh yeah, of course. My favorite shows are the ones in Cabot Cove. Especially when they're all there, the sheriff and Seth. But, some of my favorites don't take place in Cabot Cove. And I guess it was not too long after we got married. I would just kind of have this routine in the summer where I'd go out to the lake and swim, come home, and whatever episodes I had recorded, I'd watch them and have my little daily routine, and kind of just got hooked on them. And so he started finding me some DVDs, and thank goodness they were showing them on Netflix, and then they took them off of Netflix. So now that they're on Peacock, we're watching Peacock and DVDs, and he's wanting to say something.
Let me correct that story just a bit, because when she said the part where I would go out and find her the DVDs, now granted at this point I was not a fan. I hadn't watched a single episode.
You would make fun.
Yeah, I would make fun. She would watch them. I'm thinking that's why we're getting these AARP junk mail in our mailbox. I figured out she's watching Murder, She Wrote.
Ouch.
Ouch. I kind of accidentally started getting her the DVDs because, here in the Dallas area, there's a big yearly convention, AllCon, and they were having me be one of the judges for this game show at AllCon, and one of the prizes, they had a bunch of prizes for the winners to choose from, and one of the prizes was season 2 of Murder, She Wrote, and somebody would win, and they'd pick out something out of the prize pile. Somebody else would win, somebody pick out something, like, all this stuff kept going, all the swag was going, and there was this lonely Murder, She Wrote season 2 box set just still sitting there. So at the end of the game, I was like, does nobody want this Murder, She Wrote season 2? And everyone's like, no. So I was like, you know what? I'm taking it. I'm taking it home to Colleen. She was so ecstatic that I came home with that set. So that kind of snowballed into, okay, get another season. So now we proudly own all the seasons now, because, yes, eventually I started watching it and I became a fan too.
Aww.
That's
Yeah,
sweet.
he has his favorite episodes, and he even knows a lot of the episodes, what season they're in, and even whenever we have to put the discs in, what disc they're on. Don't let him fool you.
Well, that's impressive.
That's
That is.
proximity. That's all that is. And y'all laugh about being on the AARP mailing list. I somehow got on one when I was in college.
Oh gosh.
They sent
The
stuff
address.
to Brandon.
The address was my dorm room. I mean, we're not talking about just random apartment or nothing. We're talking about it was
They got
sending it
used
to a
the
dorm
dorm,
room.
Dad.
Apparently.
I
Apparently,
don't remember that.
incontinence
Wow.
problems, because I used to get coupons in the mail for incontinence stuff all the time. I swear that was some jackass putting me on a mailing list. But anyway,
I'm probably more than
So,
likely.
did y'all dorm together, you and Thomas? 'Cause
no,
Thomas, you
we
said
actually didn't. We lived in the same dorm
Oh.
for a little while, but
We were in
weren't
the same
actually
dorm,
rooming
but I was
together.
on a different floor. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Because you said you don't remember that. Okay, I gotcha. I was like, that would have been pretty cool if y'all had shared a dorm way back in the day.
It might have been before
But
you
close
got
enough.
there, honestly. But yeah.
Do what?
No, I got up there a couple of years before you did, so it might have been in the earlier times,
Okay.
the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, because I started junior college when you went up there. So.
Yeah.
Very cool. So your secret origins began way back when.
Oh yeah, well we knew each other in high school. So.
Mhm.
Oh, very cool.
That is cool.
So what is it about the show that's appealing? What makes you watch the shows over and over again?
I was just thinking about that. I really like Angela Lansbury's character, Jessica Fletcher. She's a very mature, kind, everybody loves her. You know, she's just a very noble character. And honestly, I know she's older, but a role model. I like the characters. And believe it or not, there's episodes that I haven't seen before because I tend to rewatch, my favorites, and especially the ones in Cabot Cove, but I'm trying to venture out and watch the new ones. But it's the mysteries, it's the rapport that the characters have with each other, and Jessica Fletcher and Seth and more, they when they were still alive, they were all friends outside of this show. So I think with me, it's just one of those shows that you don't get a whole lot of anymore, where it's clean and wholesome. A lot of the characters are noble and wise.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the model of what we now call a cozy mystery.
Oh, yeah.
The stakes are not particularly high, except unless, of course, you're a resident of Cabot Cove, which at the beginning of the show had a population of 4,700, but by the end it was 3,400.
I know, exactly.
So many people
especially
murdered in that.
especially if you're a friend of Jessica's.
I know.
You're either murdered or you're a suspect. It's like, wow.
But wouldn't you want her to help solve your murder? Yeah, you would.
No, I don't want to be around.
Before
not be
I got
murdered.
killed, before I got murdered. That's what I wanted to figure out. Somebody's coming for me before it happens.
Yeah,
That's what I want.
exactly, like a preemptive thing.
Hello.
But, Colleen, you mentioned how well the stories are written. I have a friend who has done a lot. Has his whole career is writing TV and cartoons and for many decades. And he said certain showrunners encourage them to just recycle ideas from previous older shows from other series. And I thought that was so strange, but that's apparently fairly common. And I don't know how true this is, but I remember reading one time some little behind the scenes stuff about Murder, She Wrote with Angela Lansbury. Is it her son that's the other producer of the show?
Yeah, Bruce.
Bruce Lansbury, her son, co-produces it with her. apparently that was one of the things, is she did not want any old recycled storylines. She wanted it all to be fresh and new for the audience. And I thought that's pretty cool that she insisted on that.
Bruce Lansbury's her son?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
I did not know that. He's one of the producers for Mission Impossible. So that's where I know the name from.
Oh, wow.
Oh, the original
Yeah.
series?
The original series.
Cool.
He directed 88 episodes and wrote 15 of them.
Wow.
Somebody connected to her.
Oh, wow.
Somebody get Kevin Bacon on the phone.
Kevin Bacon.
Put all these
Connect
connections
every
together.
episode of Murder, She Wrote to Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, we're going
But,
to have
that-
a wall of yarn going, figuring out all these connections.
Right. But that's another interesting thing that I love about Murder, She Wrote. Like, Colleen's seen way more of them than I have, of course. But I kind of do the same thing. I kind of gravitate back to my favorites. But I love, when I started watching some newer episodes to me, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe the amount of guest stars on this show over the years. I mean, every episode there's someone recognizable, if not in name, then you're like, I know that person, and you're sitting there thinking, oh yeah, they were in, Cliffhanger with Sylvester Stallone, or they were in this. It's like every episode has just got one familiar face after another, and one of them that, of course, being a big Battlestar Galactica and A-Team fan, I got really excited when I came across the episode that had Dirk Benedict. And it's a really good episode. Of course, he did really well, like he does in everything that he's in. And I got to meet him one time at a convention. And, when I was chit-chatting with him, I said, now, I promised my wife, she couldn't be here today, but I promised her that I would tell you how much she loved your episode of Murder, She Wrote. And he kind of looked at me as like, oh, yeah, I did that too, didn't I? It certainly was not a badge of honor on his resume. Oh my gosh! Like, I don't know what the why it's a sore subject with him, but you just kind of like, okay, let me just sign this. Let's take our picture. Okay, go on with yourself.
Please leave. Yes.
Wow. Apparently not everybody loves Jessica Fletcher, but anyway.
Yeah, and Eddie just talking about the guest stars. The way I know Angela Lansbury is she's a dame, so she's been around for a while, and I think she's a good actor. She was a good actress, but you wonder how many of these guest stars are actual, real, genuine friends of hers. And so when she sees them on set, even though I know that she might have already seen them, but that might have been the first time that she saw them on set, because I know that directors will do that with the actors sometimes. And just her genuine happiness and surprise to see them. When we get to those moments, I wonder, are they really friends? Because, she knows everybody. And in one of the episodes, Reflections of the Mind, she goes to visit her friend, and they're talking in her friend's room, and there's a picture. The camera just kind of pans around, and there's a picture of her. You could see it's an old picture of Angela Lansbury, and this lady, her name is Anne Bliss. And so you can tell that that's actually them in this older picture when they're both young. So I don't know what they were doing, but they either worked on something together or they knew each other from something. And so that's another thing that I like whenever she sees these actresses and actors, that happiness, that smile, where does it actually originate from?
It's funny that you brought that up, because it was, I like to dig deep into like the behind the scenes stuff. whether it's movies or TV or whatever. And I came across this article of one of the actors, one of the guest actors. I didn't know this guy's name. His face didn't look familiar. The episode he was on didn't even seem familiar to me. But I started reading about it because the article is about his experience on the set of Murder, She Wrote. And I'm reading it, and he just was glowing about his experience with, I almost called her Jessica Fletcher, with Angela Lansbury and, the other crew members. And he said he was amazed at how it seemed like more of a family type thing on set. And he said with working in other projects, he never got that a whole lot. And he said he would notice there was a lot of like a familiar face that she hadn't seen in a while, and she would go and make time for this person, and the son would make time for this person. And that's what one of the other actors on set, he told him, he goes, yeah, we've kind of become a family. Even if you're a newbie around here, she kind of takes you in under her wing. So, Colleen, you're not far off about how her character in real life was.
And I think we misspoke with Bruce Lansbury. I always thought that was her son, but I started thinking, I was always told it was her son, but I just now looked it up, and I know that's well, you're not supposed to do that, but I just did, and it says that's her brother.
Oh.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Yep.
But of course they were related. And that's another thing. I grew up not having Google, and so I grew up just being told that was her son, and I don't know why I never really thought to look that up much more.
It's because you're spending all your time on the internet looking up Chris Hemsworth without a shirt on. If you stop doing that all the time.
Well, maybe
Why?
I got time. Why would anyone want to do that?
Spender there, Do you need any help with that?
Time well spent, apparently.
Yeah.
It'll be in the show notes.
Oh my gosh.
It could be worse. It could be Jensen.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It could be who?
Jensen Ackles.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's not so bad.
There you go, Liz.
Yeah. That's like my crush for the last 20, 30 years.
Oh, okay.
50 years, 100
Yeah,
years.
at least,
It was predetermined.
It was. He grew up
It
like
was fate.
20 miles away from me. I mean, it's fate. Actually, it was Richardson,
Stalker
but it was fate.
Stalker alert.
I think another reason why I really enjoy watching the show is the town. And I know that's known for like the murder capital of the world, but it's just the small town seaside, and it's the sea cliffs. The sheriff's station is overlooks the water, and before they get it rebuilt, it has that fireplace in it, and it has. And I'm not a traveler, and I'm going to see my sister this month, but I mean she really had to almost kind of drag me there. But I'm just a real homebody. But it has made me want to venture out and go travel to Maine, because I know a lot of Murder, She Wrote is not filmed in Maine, but Maine and Cabot Cove parts of Maine look a lot alike. And so I just thought it would be neat. There's this little place that I found that I would like for Eddie and I to go to maybe on one of our anniversaries. But anyway, so I just, another part of it is the atmosphere. They don't live in the big middle of the city. I know she goes and visits her nephew every once in a while. She'll go to New York. But I just like that small town, everybody knows each other, which I know has its problems. Small towns have their problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was convinced for many years that Cabot Cove was the real place. She was
not. I knew it. No,
she's contacting a travel agent, and she's like,
Don't
"Where'd you
pop
like to
her
go,
bubble.
ma'am?" I know. It's like Cabot Cove, Maine, and the place's like, "There is no Cabot Cove, Maine." What are you talking? But yeah, it was all filmed, the sound stages at Universal, and of course, and the exterior shots. I was convinced it was Maine. Some of these exterior shots because it looked so authentic. And it was filmed apparently in Northern California in Mendocino. I've never heard of that town, but Mendocino, Northern California. And her house in the show is an actual bed and breakfast. So talk about, road trips. That would be a pretty cool, place to go to. That's going to be on my list. The bed and breakfast that was Jessica's house. Smallville, Illinois, to go see the Superman Museum, and then Popeye's hometown, because I just found out the other day that there's a Popeye museum, and wherever he's at. I forget the city now. Oh, here it is. Chester, I think, Illinois, I think.
The bed and breakfast
Chester,
sounds like
Illinois.
the only one worthwhile. But I had read that part of it was
Wow.
Damn, she slipped that in there, didn't she?
Drop the mic.
Oh, please don't. It costs a lot of money. I just bought this thing. Anybody else a fan of the show? I feel like we're doing all the yapping. Les,
Nope.
Les, this would be right up your alley with all the smart writing and everything.
Say about Les.
That he likes smart writing.
I enjoy the show.
Yeah.
At that time, it was a difference for the detective shows because in the 50s, it was Westerns. Everybody had Westerns. They had some good ones. But then it kind of shifted to mysteries and detective shows. And the detective shows at that time were very reliant on gunplay. This one did not have gunplay, which I thought was a big difference. That's what appealed to me. The writing was extremely good, and you didn't have a lot of callbacks. There were a couple of episodes that may be a callback for it, but it wasn't heavy with that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was truly interesting, and they took it on a different bend to get what they have now, or what they did have. I'm just really open about it. I think it was great fun. Just like, Colleen said, Perry Mason didn't rely on the guns, but it was of a different ilk too. Just pleasant stuff. That makes a difference.
Yeah, you're right about the gunplay in it. My other all-time favorite detective show was similar in that there was not a whole lot of gunplay. Was Columbo. And Columbo, his character wouldn't even carry a gun.
Right.
And you're thinking a police detective that doesn't carry a gun, but never thought about it that way, Les, about the lack of gunplay. That did kind of set it apart from a lot of these other detective shows, like Kojak and some of these others that, you would expect that from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The gritty,
Exactly.
hard-boiled, straight out of Raymond Chandler film noir type stuff. Yeah, that had been off and on popular for a while by then.
My favorite episode actually tied two shows together, which was Murder, She Wrote and Magnum P.I.
Oh, yes!
Yep. Yeah.
Preach it, sister.
I guess just like you were saying, your household was a Murder, She Wrote. Ours was a Magnum P.I., So when they crossed the two, it was like, wow. There's a chick who does this? What?
Yeah, that was another show we watched, and yeah. My sister still has a crush on Tom Selleck. That's her all-time. And every time at the end when he would do his eyebrows, she'd, And even as a little girl, I thought, you have to do, and I said, you have to do it every time. But yeah.
Apparently the answer was yes.
Yes.
It's kind of like Patty and Selma smoking a cigarette after watching MacGyver.
Like they were ever not smoking a cigarette. Come on.
True, but still.
Mm.
That was a really fun crossover. That's another one I like to go back to, is her and Magnum. That's such good chemistry in those two episodes. I mean, it was great episodes. I loved those.
And I like how it started on one but finished on the other. So it kind of, like I said, for me, that was kind of my introduction to her. So.
Mm-hmm.
Did she get to drive the Ferrari? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about the character, is the character does not drive. And Colleen, why is that? Because you told me finally.
She does not drive, so she always, now, don't think badly of her, but she would always rely on someone else that she knew to drive her somewhere, and that was her chance.
Or ride her bike.
And but that was her chance to get to know that person. That was not her chance to pry, but that would, if you watch the episode, she's always asking about people, and she's always telling someone, give my love to so and so. So that was her chance to get to know that person. And if she wasn't riding with somebody, she was riding her bike, and she did walk a lot too. And she started this show, Angela Lansbury started this show when she was 59. And she said that she was still going to the grocery store, by herself whenever she started this show. But I guess, shortly after that had to change. But, at 59, and in a lot of the episodes, she's jogging, and we're not talking about just a couple of steps jogging like I could do, but she's actually jogging. She's riding her bike. So I think that's pretty impressive.
That is.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, Colleen likes to make fun, because the very first episode, that's how the pilot episode opens, as they show her jogging, next to the cliffs, jogging through the town, jogging up her street, and then finally, as she's approaching her house, she could hear her phone ringing, so she speeds up to answer the phone before it hangs up. And and I'm watching this episode for the first time, and I realize, she answers the phone, she has her conversation with her nephew, and I realized Colleen is looking at me, and I was like, what? And she was like, she's a better runner than you are.
Ouch.
Well,
and I thought maybe my pre-PE teaching days, when I'm teaching PE, I'm pretty sure I'm 80% sure I could beat Angela Lansbury in a run if she was still around.
Gosh.
Okay, maybe 60%.
Well, speaking of Magnum, that episode, just real quick, I think it's towards the well, it doesn't matter when it is, but her and Magnum are walking, and he's all legs and 6'4", and she's all legs, but she's not. I mean, I guess she's kind of tall for a woman, but they're walking together, and it shows you how tall he is and how long his legs are. I love that scene.
Yeah, his belt coming up to like her shoulders.
It's
And it's funny because after you've watched so many of the episodes, you start realizing, because, like I said, my introduction to her extended family was her nephew, Grady, and he's the nephew that he'll pop up once or twice every season. He's the one that you would see on a regular basis as far as family members.
Is that the one that worked in New York?
Yeah.
Yes, he worked in New York, like, for a tuna fish company. I was like, he did their books or something. At least I was one of the for a few episodes. But as you go through the seasons, you realize she's going on a cruise ship with this niece. But wait, she's going on this to go see this niece in this other town. Oh wait, but she's going to go see this niece. And you start realizing she's got a lot of nieces and nephews.
She had a lot of, I think she had a lot of brothers. I don't know if she was the only girl, but she makes a comment in one of the episodes to, I think it's Leslie Nielsen, about how many brothers that she had. Because I've noticed that too, that she's got all of these nieces and nephews, but Grady is the only one that is a regular on the show.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's such a doof, but he's actually a part of many of my favorite episodes. My all-time favorite episode, surprisingly not the one where she has Magnum PI in it, but that is up there. But it's one called Doom with a View, and it's where she goes to New York to visit Grady, her nephew, and his apartment's being fumigated, so they have to stay at this really, like, this 5-star hotel that's owned by what's the actress's name? Janet Leigh. So you know Janet Leigh's age, and her husband is Grady's friend from college. So the husband is Grady's age. So there's like a 30-year difference, and that's part of the storyline. Is you're assuming he's a gold digger, but you find out he's not. He actually loves her. But the whole episode takes place, 90% of the episode takes place in the hotel. There's a couple of off scenes, the police station and all. But I love that episode, and I realize it's because it takes place generally only inside this ginormous hotel, and it's raining for part of the time, so the characters don't want to leave the hotel, so that's more of a reason why, they stay there. And Colleen was like, you're always watching that episode. It's like, what is it about this episode that you love so much? I was like, I don't know. It's just like the fact that they're confined to this tall skyscraper. This, and she was like, it's because of Die Hard, isn't it? I was like, oh yeah, I guess this is like the Die Hard episode of Murder, She Wrote. I never put that together.
Wow. See, and here I'm thinking if it's a skyscraper, it's probably got more square footage than the entire town of Cabot Cove. But anyway.
Yeah.
But not as much charm.
Well, certainly not.
But I think the reputation it has, it's an old person show and, it's boring. There's one episode in season 4. If anyone is interested, if it's Thursday, it must be Beverly.
Oh my gosh.
And that one, you talk about not boring and not for old people, and a little bit of, not a little bit, but the whole episode is about this sex scandal. So that'll, Seth likes to say, stiffen your syllabus for the year. And there's another one in season 5 called The Sins of Castle Cove. So that's another one. So they're not all just for older people.
And that's the misconception about the show. That was my running joke when Colleen would have her little weekend mini marathons. Is the joke is, that's an old person's show, but it's such a bad misconception because, like you were saying, Les, it's so well written, and Colleen, you were saying that the characters are so endearing. Her friend. It's not like it's one of those where there's a subplot where she's got this beef with the doctor, with Seth. It's like her and the the residents that she's friends with, they're friends. They're actual friends that they would trust each other with their lives. There's no, well, in this season she's having it out with Mort or anything. It's you kind of find yourself wanting to live in Cabot Cove. You find yourself wanting to be friends with Jessica, so as long as you're not one of the victims, of course. But yeah, it is a bad misconception, I think, and I perpetuated it with my jokes for many years until I actually sat down and started watching them and thought, oh my gosh. Like, is there like a Murder, She Wrote fan club that I can join on Facebook? Because I'm hooked on this show.
See, and the thing you got to remember is this show was on a major network for 12 seasons. There's no way it was only appealing to one demographic. It had to be appealing to several demographics, because otherwise it wouldn't have been so successful. They would have petered out after 2 years.
Yeah,
yeah. There was more to it than old people.
Yeah, exactly. And I've said this before, but I really, really like the relationship that she has with her friends there. And it's mainly the sheriff. Amos was the sheriff, Tom Bosley, for 4 seasons. And then, what's his name?
The actor? Mort? I'm not sure the actor.
Well, anyway, Mort came on, season 5 until the end. And then, of course, Seth, the doctor, William Wyndham. And I just really, really love the chemistry. Amos, Tom Bosley, has the utmost respect for her. He uses manners with her, unbelievable manners with her. He never calls her name. He always calls her Mrs. Fletcher. And I've watched every episode with him, and I try to think, okay, am I missing something? Has he called her name Jessica? But he says Mrs. Fletcher, even when he's talking about her. And, Mort, the new sheriff, after he kind of gets to know her a little bit, he starts calling her Mrs. F. It's just that friendship that they have. And then, of course, her and Seth, he'll call her woman, and, it kind of reminds me of how my dad would talk to my mom, playfully. And just their relationship, hello, Clover, their friendship that they have. And, they were never a love item, but they loved each other. And so, and I know she had her girlfriends, but it's funny that the girlfriends didn't reappear very often. The ones in like I was saying, those couple of episodes, the ones that would appear in the beauty salon, but they weren't around as much as the others. And so anyway, the friendships,
camaraderie.
Yeah, that's what another thing that I really love about the show.
Well, like I said before, it was dangerous to be her friend.
Body count. It's dangerous to live in. It's dangerous to live in Las Vegas now too. So.
It'd be dangerous to live anywhere.
Yeah. Just let the right windstorm come along.
For different reasons in some cases. Yeah.
And it's funny the difference between the two sheriff characters. Tom Bosley, of course, we all know him from Happy Days. The dad on Happy Days. So, and he was a good sheriff. His episodes. He did kind of rely a bit much on Jessica to. There was a lot more leaning on her to figure out who the killer was for sure. But he certainly was a brave, very stand-up kind of guy. But once the other sheriff, Mort Metzger, once he came on, he used to be a police detective in New York City, and then decided to move to Cabot Cove, become sheriff, small town and all. But he brought with him that New York toughness. He was a type that if he had to, he was going to draw his gun in a heartbeat and do what he had to do. And I love that about him. I thought, I love Amos and all as a sheriff, but if something were to go down, I want Mort watching my back because, he's definitely got it together, him and Magnum PI.
And let's not forget, in the first season, there were a few episodes with Claude Akins. Amos was still the sheriff, but this was before Seth. Seth didn't enter until season 2. And so Claude Akins was her good friend. And he was always over. He was a fisherman, and he was always over there fixing stuff and, hanging out. And her relationship with him, too, it was just one of those where, they would do anything for each other. I know everybody makes the jokes that, you don't want to be her friend, but she's the one that I would want to be her friend. I would want her on my side. And if somebody was accusing me of doing something, that's the thing. If somebody was accusing me and I was in jail for a crime I did not commit, I would want her to get me out of jail.
Right. Like a prison break, you mean?
Like a prison break, yeah.
Oh,
to be
man.
digging that tunnel.
Smuggling a saw blade in somehow. Anyway. Yeah, I find it's interesting looking at the kind of the dates. You talk about Tom Bosley leaving after the 4th season. Apparently he left to go do a similar show of his own. Because Father Dowling started in 89, which would have been like the 5th season or so.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We watched that show too.
The Father Dowling Mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that show. Didn't watch it, but I remember it.
Oh, yeah, I watched it.
Good old Mr. Cunningham.
And it's funny, what was his name?
The actor?
Yes.
Let me look it up.
It has a thing on top of his vowel. Oh, anyway, Mort. He was in an episode before he was sheriff, and they reused
Ron Masak.
Yeah, Ron Masick. They reused actors and actresses in different roles. And I remember Eddie. you always had a problem with that.
I was like, wait, why is he the sheriff now? Was he the murderer like 2 seasons back?
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen came out like 4 different times.
I think it was 2.
Oh.
There's a few shows that do that. And for me, it's just annoying, too, because you're like, wait a minute. That was the guy who stole the cat, Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you remember? That was only 2 seasons ago.
Right. And now they're a good guy. It's like,
Yeah.
I saw what he did.
The con man into the house.
But I guess to me, I know that they're playing a different role, but I also like to see that character playing a different role. Now, there's just some roles that some characters shouldn't play. Some actors should never play a bad guy.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford.
Yeah, Eddie still has not forgiven Harrison Ford for playing.
Spoiler.
Well, I didn't say anything. But anyway, I like to see the different actors playing the different roles.
See, I don't mind them in different roles in different movies and TV shows.
Yeah, whatever. It's easier to get away with it, like in Star Trek, because you just put them in a mask and nobody knows the difference.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how many times did, God, what's his name? I can see his face. The guy in the thing.
Yeah, that guy. That guy that was in that thing.
I just talked about him a couple weeks ago. Jeffrey Combs. That was a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many different characters did he play on Star Trek? I mean, and on the various things. I mean, several.
Yeah. Like
and you didn't always recognize him, right? Because they could put a mask on him. You can't. That's a lot. That stands out a lot more on a show like Murder, She Wrote. I mean, I guess he could play the town clown or something. But
Jeffrey Combs was a Cardassian, and then he was yeah. Well, I mean, even Armin Shimmerman, who played Quark, he played a Ferengi twice, but two different types of Ferengis, didn't he?
Yeah,
I feel like he was
he played like first season played a Ferengi.
Yeah,
back when they were still kind of bestial.
Yeah,
and then he got to come on DS9 and basically civilize them. So,
oh my gosh,
what an interesting role that would be to get offered. It's like, hey, you get to play this guy. Well, I did that once before. Like, yeah, but you can do it differently this time.
Yeah, you're gonna be likable, and people are gonna love you.
Semi-likable, anyway. But yeah.
I think he's my favorite character on there. I feel like when I go back to the Deep Space Nine episodes, I scroll through. I'm always picking the Quark episodes for some reason.
There's some interesting ones for sure.
Yeah. I thought it was weird on MASH when they finally brought in Captain or Colonel Sherman T. Potter, because a couple of seasons before that, he was like a crazy general. I mean, they had him committed because, you know, and then he shows up and it's like, wait a minute, that's that crazy guy. He even has the horse.
The horse?
Yeah, when he went crazy, he was like riding one, but then when he came back as the same guy, that was his thing, was a horse from the infantry that he was in and stuff. So, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, huh? But I don't think he was Sherman Potter when he was crazy guy.
Right, no. The first time it was a different character.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, wow.
And it was actually that kept them in mind when McLean Stevenson left the show.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, great actor. I love him in that role. It's just that one episode where you see him as Mr. Crazy that's like,
Honestly, he was pretty good in that role too. But
he was. Yeah.
He was.
He was. So sometimes they can get away with it, but when you're that rememberable, it's kind of hard to be like, oh, forget that. And let's move over here. And he's sane.
It's certainly a test of your skill as an actor. To do something like that. Which, I mean, some of them are good at it. I'm not saying you have to be a good actor, or you're not a good actor if you can't do that. It's just, I mean, some people are better in a very similar role every time, and some people can branch out and make it different and do stuff themselves, you know.
Yeah.
Another thing I like about the show is in a couple of episodes, these other authors, well-known mystery writers, have, come on the show and into Jessica's path and try to outwit her or outdo her. And I just think, don't y'all know? Do y'all not watch any of the episodes? Do you not know who you're dealing with? Of course you cannot outwit her.
Somebody needs to send them season 2 of the series just to let them see some of these things.
No. One was a 2-parter, and the actress was actually, I mean, the writer, she was actually kind of, going downhill with her writing, so she was at her wit's end. And anyway, I just, these other people that drift into town and they don't know who they're trying to fool, who they're dealing with, but these mystery writers that come in and they think that they can, outsmart her. I really like the writing in those.
It's like a challenge.
Yeah.
Gunning for number 1. It's almost like a Western to throw back to Les's reference earlier. It's almost like a Western. Gunslinger coming for the number 1.
When we did the month of Miss Maisel, didn't y'all tell me that? What?
Miss Marple.
Miss Marple.
Yeah.
Didn't y'all say this was based off of those, or?
Yeah.
And it's just similar.
I mean, it sure seems there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of parallels. for sure.
Yeah.
They wanted the character to be a younger Miss Marple. When they started like fleshing out the character, that was their intention, was to make a younger version of Miss Marple, which is interesting because she played Miss Marple. What was it, Colleen? The Mirror Cracked. She actually played Miss Marple before she played Jessica Fletcher.
Ah.
And I didn't know this until researching for this episode, but 2 other actresses were ahead of Angela Lansbury before she got the job. The other 2 actresses that could have played Jessica Fletcher, Jean Stapleton and
that would
Doris.
be interesting.
Yeah, she's the one from All in the Family, right?
All in the Family, right.
Okay,
yeah,
okay, I thought so.
She's Edith.
Yeah, Edith Bunker. I thought
Yeah.
so. And Doris Day.
Oh, wow. That would have been an interesting career resurgence for her.
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
What's funny is Jean Stapleton plays a writer in Agatha Christie's Dead Man's Folly. And so anyway, I just, connecting those two, that's neat. But I mean, I know she acted a certain way on the other All in the Family.
Yeah. All in the Family.
I mean, no one can redo her voice. Oh my goodness. But in Dead Man's Folly, she's completely different. She's just normal, but you compare her to Angela Lansbury and there's no comparison.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting.
It would have. I mean, either of those choices would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have liked to see Jean Stapleton pull off Mrs. Potts in Beauty and the Beast.
Who was the other one?
Doris Day.
Doris.
They probably would have been slightly different characters, but they would still be interesting characters, I think.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes me curious at what point, they would have hired her, Angela Lansbury. So I guess once they hired her, and in part of her contract, I guess they made her an executive producer. I mean, it's strange that her and her brother were executive producers of the show, but when the whole concept was forming, she wasn't even attached to the project to begin with. I'd be curious to go back and see at one point, how that all played out, her becoming producer.
Kind of makes you wonder if that's a contractual requirement somehow.
Yeah. I don't know about
it
in this case, but I know like on certain movies and stuff, if they can't afford to pay the actors, what they deserve to be paid, sometimes they'll give them titles like that to
give them a bigger cut of the profit.
Yeah. Or kind of put their name in there more too.
Right.
I learned that because of the whole Rust movie deal. So it's like, how was Alec Baldwin co-producer on this? And come to find out, it had nothing to do with it, but they couldn't afford him. Yep.
Right.
That's right.
So they gave him the title.
But you're right. That's because something similar happens with the TV show Psych. Once Psych became a big hit, James Roday and what's his name?
Dulé Hill.
Oh, Dulé Hill, the 2 main actors in Psych, they gave them, I guess, whatever, season 2, season 3, or whatever point when they realized they had a hit show on their hands, they made them executive producers of the show. Of course, as a fledgling show, they didn't even know it was going to get picked up. They were not producers.
Right.
Yeah.
They were unknown.
That seems kind of standard because I'm thinking that same thing with Matlock. They gave Andy Griffith executive producer, and then as the series kept going, he had a little bit more creative control over the show.
That's right.
And too, I wonder if that was to kind of help them keep control of their work.
Right.
Like now we have better contracts and things, but back then, you kind of had to do what they gave you, and at least you could still have a say in what your work was doing or where it was going to be shown or something, or at least be notified.
I find that on a lot of the shows that I watch, that the main actors and actresses are the executive producers, and I guess I've never really thought anything about it, but just kind of paying attention to the credits. Sorry, Ranger. Paying attention to the credits, I've noticed more and more the executive producers.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Has anyone ever seen Gaslight?
I don't think I have.
Les,
you have?
No, I didn't understand what the question was.
Oh, I asked if anyone had seen the movie Gaslight.
The old version?
Yes, the original.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I really, really, really like that movie. And, Angela Lansbury, she's, I don't know, in her teens or early 20s or something.
she's very young.
Very, very young. And her accent, you can hear it come out so much. I mean, I know she's also speaking with a heavier accent, but it's coming out so much more. But I showed that to Eddie for the first time just within the past year or two, and he absolutely loved it. So I know it's not Murder, She Wrote, and she's not even really the main, a main actress, but that's a really, really good movie.
It is.
I was like, oh my gosh, Angela Lansbury is hot.
I pulled it up, and it's like, wow. But you look at the eyes, and you know it's her.
Oh, yeah.
She's always had those, I don't know how to describe that with her eyes.
Those big, huge eyes.
Yeah.
Would that be
They're
doe
kind
eyes?
of droopy, too. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful, deep set.
Yep. If she was 59 when Murder, She Wrote started, she would have been 19 for Gaslight.
Wow,
19.
yeah, 19, you're right. Teenager.
That's neat. Yeah, and she said with her British accent that when she took on the role in Murder, She Wrote, that her natural accent was going to help her speak that, New England with a New England accent. So, you can hear it come out every once in a while. She'll put an R at the end of certain words and stuff, but you kind of forget that she has an accent, really. At least I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, she hit it very well.
She's a pro. It's funny. It's also funny to hear other British actors complain about doing American TV and doing an American accent.
Well, I love doing accents, and it seems like all the different accents that I try to do, they all sound the same. They all sound Chinese.
Wow.
She doesn't mean to, but it's like, okay, I'm going to do my Australian accent. I was like, no, that's not Australian. Okay, well then let me try my British accent. No, it's not. You still kind of sound like Charlie Chan, no matter how hard you try.
Ouch. Well, the guy who played Charlie Chan was British, right?
Yeah.
I have no idea if he was or not, but
Chans. Oh, I love Charlie Chan. Oh.
Another detective who didn't get into the violence part of it.
Yep.
Just saying, connections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kolchak was another of my favorites. I mean, of course, he wasn't really a detective; he was a news reporter, but very much a detective show. He's as a news reporter, he's trying to solve these mysteries. His paranormal, pre-X-Files mysteries.
He would do a lot of what the police would do.
Oh yeah.
Not only do I watch the Murder, She Wrote shows, and there have been
my gosh,
4 or 5 movies, I also read the books, and I'm currently reading one book right now. So I really like how they tie in. Now they've messed up sometimes Mort there will be a book, and Mort will call Jessica instead of Mrs. F or Mrs. Fletcher. And, no, Mort is not going to do that. But for the most part,
these authors need you as the editor of these.
They do.
A consultant. Don't you play the games too? The video games? Yes, there's video games for Murder, She Wrote.
Well, we weren't going to talk about that, but yeah, they're very minimal. They're like basic function video games where you just, there's a plot, there's a little story, and she comes out and she talks and she interviews people, but then when it's just you go and you find stuff. So I mean, it's a baby could do it.
So it's not like Jessica Fletcher visits like Silent Hill or anything like that.
Really? What's wrong with you?
They're gonna add Jessica Fletcher to Dead by Daylight any day now.
There you go.
Yeah. He's gonna be running for his life. Let me tell you.
I'll buy that for $1.
Robo Fletcher.
I'm still kind of irritated that I missed out on the Jessica Fletcher Funko Pop. I'm not a big Funko Pop collector, but I saw that they had made a Magnum PI and a Jessica Fletcher. I'm thinking, oh, yeah, I'll get that later because, who's going to want those? Those suckers are expensive now.
Oh, I bet.
What's wrong with you? This is a hot iron.
That's a common question between you two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
What's wrong with you? And really? Those are our two favorites.
What's wrong with you? Thanks a lot, Mike.
You think after you've been married this long that Colleen would have a better idea what was wrong with you. But,
my God.
It's only a matter of time before this turns into marriage therapy, I'm just saying.
Yeah. This is too much fun.
He's like, thanks, Mike.
Oh, my gosh.
May turn into it.
I think we're already there.
Yeah. Fast turning.
So, are we all Jessica Fletchered out, or I know you could go on for like a week talking about it. You really got your fill.
I'm telling you, if it's Thursday, it must be Beverly.
Yeah, y'all need to check that episode out. It is kind of heavy on the innuendos, which is very not unrealistic, uncharacteristic of a Murder, She Wrote episode, but really funny. Oh my gosh. I was thinking, I didn't realize the Murder, She Wrote episode would have so many innuendos in it.
And you said they're playing on Peacock now?
Yes.
And Pluto.
Let's look that up.
And a channel on Pluto as well. Yep.
Which is a streaming service, not a planet.
Right.
How do you know it's not playing on the planet, though? Do you know for sure?
It's not a planet. Pluto's not a planet, remember?
It is now.
They took planet status. Oh, wait, did they? When did that happen?
It keeps bouncing back and
Yes,
forth.
they
When
did.
did that happen?
Like
What?
a year or two ago?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You sure?
Yeah.
So I look at Pluto and I just say, that's no moon. That's a space station.
What's wrong with you?
They listened to the people, and they gave us our planet back.
There you go.
Our planet?
Whenever they took away Brontosaurus and named it Apatosaurus. Fools. What's wrong with y'all?
Don't.
Apparently that is not exclusive to Eddie. But okay.
Nope.
Nope.
No, I was saying don't to the Dobermans. We're surrounded by 3 Dobermans, and like one of them was looking at the other one, and the other one started looking back like, don't, you're getting too close. And so I was thinking, don't start barking during our podcast.
And now one is biting Eddie's neck as he's talking.
Wow.
Lovingly.
Yeah, love it.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Sure,
blink,
Jan.
blink 3 times if we need to save you.
Hey, Dobermans get a bad rap because of movies. They're like the goofiest babies you'll ever adopt if you ever have one.
And smart.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'll admit though, it took a little while, but I definitely jumped full on the Murder Road bandwagon or train, I guess. I'm riding that train all the way back to the station. It's a great show. And anybody listening, if you haven't watched it because you have preconceived notions, I say set those aside, give it a try. You will discover it is a great show. It is. Never thought I'd say this, but it's definitely one of my favorites. I would definitely say in my top 20. Wait, it's behind Seinfeld, for sure.
Top 5.
You got Seinfeld. You got Everybody Loves Raymond. You got Next Generation.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, but it's there. It's there somewhere in the top 20, which is a big step up because it wasn't even in my top 500 at one point.
And on that note, we are going to take a quick break and be back with Geek News for you. And we're back, and it's time for Geek News for you. In this segment, we bring a couple news items to the table for discussion. This week, it is Les, myself, and Les, would you like to go first, please?
Thank you, sir. My news item is an anniversary. 45 years ago, a movie came out done by 3 college students because of the monster phase. And this was titled Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh.
This was a movie that didn't screen well, but it had such a following afterwards that it was shown year in, year out for those that enjoyed it. To me, it's one of the funniest things around. And I actually do have a segment of the movie, which is a few, maybe 6 or 7 clips on a film. I don't know what it shows, but it's just something that I had to have when I had it offered. This movie kind of set the stage for other films that followed, and as a result, it took over. Actually, it began the phase of spoofs in the comedy world for monster movies and the like. I will have a posting of the information for you to read. It's really fun to read, find out about it, and step forward and cheer, because it's really good movie. So that's what I got for you.
Cool.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Cult classic.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. For me, I have something from the department of, well, I didn't expect that. Deadline is reporting that producer Malcolm D. Lee and comedian writer Opie, and I'm going to mispronounce his last name, Olagbaju, are putting together a series for NBC based off the 1976 film Car Wash.
Oh, wow.
According to the article, it says, quote, set in a modern-day D.C. car wash, the TV series focuses on the immigrant family's generational and cultural clashes between father and son and their eclectic group of employees.
Wow.
At least it's not an 80s film, Mike.
It's not.
Hey. So
I want to know who they're going to get to play cab driver. That's what I want.
Yay!
I saw this and I was I had to do a double take. I'm like, that okay. It's certainly different.
Yeah.
I wonder if they watched the film and said, hey, you know what? We can turn this into a TV show. Of course, the film starred Richard Pryor, who else? Franklin AJ, Bill Duke, Pointer Sisters, Garrett Morris, and a lot of others.
The cab driver was George Carlin.
Yeah, and George Carlin.
Wow. All right. Sure.
That's different.
Like I said, from the department of I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
I wonder whose idea was to go revisit that and try to mess around with that classic.
well, like I said, I just wonder if they were watching it and said, you know what, this could be a funny show if we update it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can see the reasoning behind that. Oh gosh, I can't think of the name of the TV show. It was this guy. It was this white guy goes over to India to train the customer service people in India. I can't remember the name of the show. Does that ring a bell? It was a sitcom. It takes place in India, and the guy's company gets downsized because they're gonna go overseas with all the customer service people, and so they send him over to India to train these people. It lasted for one season. I can't think of the name, but it was hilarious.
You recall who was in it?
I do not. Now, one of the minor characters in it was the tall guy from Drew Carey, Diedrich Bader.
Ryan Stiles.
No, Diedrich Bader, I think.
Okay.
Let me look it up. Anyway, it was a hilarious sitcom, and my family and I watched it for the one season it was on. And years later, I found out it was based on an independent film. And I thought, oh my gosh. Let me see if I can look it up by his name. But anyway, I could kind of see that because they're probably thinking, well, this younger generation they don't know a whole lot about car wash. And they're probably thinking they can strike a chord with this new or younger group. So yeah, I can kind of see that.
Okay.
I'm looking up his filmography because trying to figure out what this show was.
I'm just wondering if they watched Car Wash in a double feature with My Fair Lady or something, because you're getting the My Fair Lady treatment on this thing. Hey, we can turn anything into gold. Can we? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I remember that being a fairly raunchy movie, honestly.
Oh yeah.
So I guess we'll see.
I hadn't seen it. I'm kind of interested in seeing it.
Oh, I haven't seen it in a long time.
It's been years, but yeah, you're right. It is definitely leans. It's Richard Pryor. It definitely leans more on the raunchier side with the cast, of course, that you would
expect. They certainly didn't pull punches back then with their comedy.
They did not.
I cannot find the name of this show. This is so weird. It's like... Well, anyway. Hey, Les, going back to your Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Please. That movie, that was one of those, my brother Vic, God bless him, he's the one that introduced me as kids. He's the one that told me first, like, man, there's this new movie coming out called Star Wars next year. He's the guy who told me about G.I. Joe, and he's the one that told me, you got to watch these Texas Rangers with me. And I mean, anything I'm a fan of now is because my brother Vic told me ahead of time, you're going to like this. I remember him telling me he had heard about this low-budget show called Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. And I was like, what? I was like, I mean, it sounds goofy, but at the same time, it sounds like something I have to check out. And I swear, I don't know where he heard it from. Because, you know, we're talking, like, what year did that come out in, Les? In the late 70s?
43 years ago, yeah. 78.
Okay. This would have been mid-80s. This would have been at the era of video rental stores.
Okay.
So this would have been years after the fact. He caught wind of this movie called Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, and I swear he called around to every video store in Dallas to see if they had this, because he had found out they got released on video cassette, because he had to see this movie.
Sure.
And finally, he had called all over Dallas. It turned out the video rental place, VHS rental place down the street from us, Video Vacation, just this little mom and pop store on Westmoreland in Illinois, had it. And so he told my parents, my dad drove us down there. We rented this movie, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. We brought it home. We watched it. My whole family was like, what is this nonsense? But my brother Vic and I, we acknowledge, even as kids, or I guess, yeah, early teens, would have acknowledged this is really campy. This is like Adam West, Batman kind of campy. But at the same time, we got what they were trying to do with it, and we loved it. And I remember thinking, I'm so glad Vic found out about this obscure random movie. And I didn't hear people talk about this movie for years later, like in the 90s, when people started talking about it, it was a cult classic. I remember telling Vic, oh my gosh, that's that movie we rented from Video Vacation back in the 80s. You remember that? Yeah, they're in Oak Cliff. That's crazy.
That and like Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yes.
There was a spider one. I think those are what sparked my love for like B movies. Like I can appreciate a good cheesy B movie, you know.
Yes.
You wouldn't have lasted long on this show if you couldn't. I mean, so you know.
True.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, that was the other one, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I remember we were in high school, and I was doing a sleepover with a couple of friends, Mark and Ruben, at my friend Ruben's house. And we went to the video store like you did in the 80s. You went to whatever video store was in your neighborhood, and we rented Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and oh my gosh, we riffed on that thing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was a fun evening.
It's a funny movie. I don't think it was supposed to be funny, but it's a funny movie.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, I collect a lot of that memorabilia.
Do you
I
really?
The little popcorn gun and the candy gun, cotton candy gun and coffee mugs, T-shirts.
I shouldn't be surprised that there's merchandising for Killer Clowns, but at the same time, I'm kind of surprised.
I think it was last year. Spirit Halloween went like crazy with Killer Clowns.
Did they really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
That's where
gosh.
I picked up a lot of my stuff because, I mean, they had like everything. So I don't know if it
Oh
was
my
like
God.
if it was an anniversary year or if it a comeback. I don't know, but they like really latched onto it.
Well, there's a video game that's going to be coming out here soon.
Yeah.
For Killer Clowns.
For Killer Clowns, yes.
Wow. Interesting.
And those filmmakers are probably thinking, who would have thought all these years later they would be making a video game out of our cheesy little movie?
Right. These people are
sick.
Oh
my gosh.
Well, I'm wanting to say on
What's wrong with you people?
Twisted Metal. Do y'all remember that video game?
Yeah.
I think they had a skin for I forget his name, but the little short clown dude with the cotton candy gun. I think they had a skin you could put on Sweet Tooth like that.
I think you're right. That does sound really familiar.
Yeah, because everybody was like, "Oh, you're ripping on Killer Clowns," and they're like, "No."
Oh my God.
Clowns are just killers.
I thought everyone knew that.
Yeah, they should. I think Stephen King taught me that early. Don't trust a clown.
Yeah, well, you were probably too young to be reading it, but anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
The TV show I was talking about earlier it's called Outsourced. And it's about, like I said, it's about a guy who his company downsizes because they're moving their customer service telemarketing thing overseas to India. So they send him over to India to train them. And it's a hilarious show, Outsourced. And it lasted for one season and it got canceled and we were so irritated. And yeah, years later I found out it was based on some small independent film of the same name.
Interesting. Did you track it down?
I look at the cast and it looks familiar. I don't remember watching it though, if that makes sense.
I know, it's so weird because usually my family is always like we're not on the cusp of what the big new stuff is coming out on TV. We usually catch things after the fact. Mm-hmm. But for some reason we were on board with Outsourced from like episode 1 and we like loved it and we rode that train all the way till the end till they canceled it.
I think maybe it's the lead actor that is familiar.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. Okay. Any special shout-outs or mentions this week? Obviously, Eddie and Colleen, thank you for joining us. It's been fun.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Sure
we
was.
always have fun with you guys.
Ditto.
Definitely need to do it more often, not once every 2 or 3 years. Not that I'm trying to invite myself back on your show, but
you are. Yeah, you are.
Anytime.
Yep. We'll work something out, definitely.
We like guests that are interviews.
Less work for us.
Right, those are a little harder sometimes.
Can anyone guess what I'm watching now?
The Magnum. One of the Magnum episodes of.
No, Murder, She Wrote.
Which episode?
Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
It's if it's Thursday, it must be Beverly episode.
Oh, okay, the one that you got to watch if you get all the innuendos and whatever.
The whatevers.
But no shout outs unless Colleen, are you ready to announce our return to Figments because you had so much fun tonight podcasting?
No, not yet.
Okay, not yet. Not yet.
I'm I'm announcing my shout out to summer vacation.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Whee.
Perfect time to restart That's the perfect time to revisit your old podcast.
No, it was the perfect time to relax.
Yeah, podcasts are a lot of work.
No podcast information at this time.
But stay tuned.
Right. She did say yet.
Yeah.
But that's a big accomplishment that it took 2.5 years, and y'all were the ones that got Colleen to finally come out of her cave to come do a podcast after 2.5 years. So, thanks to y'all.
Yay!
Yay!
Our work here is done.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, whippy, yippee. I mean, whatever.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and move on to our regular shout-outs. First off, I want to thank Pop Goes the Culture for allowing us to be part of a great group of fellow podcasts. Check out the network. There will be a link on the show notes. We also want you to check out the fine men and women who've been kind enough to spread the word of the fellowship on Twitter/X by retweeting our links, and that is Podern Family. And the best way to check that out is just to do a search, #Podern Family. That's all one word. And just scroll through the list, and whatever catches your eye, please click on that link and download the episode. And we hope you have a great time listening to them. Also want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to the podcast. In our show notes, we'll have a link to where you can check out their music. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We value your feedback. Any comments, questions, suggestions, complaints, observations, what have you, please send them our way. Email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to the website and go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form that you can fill out. We do have a Discord that you can join. It's been up for a couple of years now. We post a lot of news items, stuff for discussion, stuff to laugh at. Have some activities on there. There is an invite on our homepage. Sign up for Discord. It's free, and the app is in all the app stores. On social media, we're on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. On Instagram and Twitter, we are at Fellowship Geeks. If you'd like to follow our personal accounts, Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at LN_Geek. Les may or may not be found at Fake Les Webster. And I can be found at TomTC Geek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you'd be so kind as to rate and review the show, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate the support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,